Hi, guys. The collapse of Democratic Party favorability, Gaza, genocide, and the moral credibility crisis. Let's unpack it all right now. Hi, guys. Welcome back to The Baseline. Hope everybody's doing well, having a great day. Today, we're going to be talking about Democratic Party. So let me ask you guys something. When did being against a genocide become a fringe position? Because apparently supporting babies starving is now the bipartisan consensus in Washington. Now, meanwhile, the Democratic Party, the one that promised to be the adults in the room, the defenders of democracy, the moral compass of the nation, just hit their lowest favorability rating in 35 years. Only 33% of Americans view the Democratic Party favorably. So try to let that sink in for just a moment. That's lower than Biden's approval rating, lower than the Supreme Court's credibility, and just slightly above a late-stage crypto scam. But here's what no one's telling you. This isn't just a popularity problem. This is a moral credibility crisis. And it's not coming from the right. It's coming from their own base. So here's the question we're going to try to unpack or answer today, right? If voters hate the Republicans and they're disgusted with the Democrats, who the heck is left? Because spoiler alert, it's not just about Gaza. It's not about Biden. It's not even about Trump. It's about how both parties treat the truth like it's optional. And it's also about how the Democrats are losing people who used to really care. So let's break this down. Yes, the GOP is in shambles. They're fractured. They're indicted. Cult worshiping Trump like he's a messiah with a mugshot. That's all Republican, right? And Biden, he's old news. He's uninspiring. That whole thing was a fiasco. And they treated Gaza like it was a hiccup, right? But the real story is the Democratic Party just managed to disgust their most loyal voters, liberals, progressive, millennials, Gen Z, the hope and change people. They're not apathetic, though. They're furious. And they're not leaving for the Republicans. They're just walking out the door. But here's what's going to blow your mind. Even as their favorability tanks, Democratic voter enthusiasm is actually up. Now, how does that make sense? Why are the people who hate the party still planning to vote for them? Well, hold on to that thought. We're going to come back to it. And it really is a bombshell. But let's talk about this Gaza litmus test, right? And here's the thing. Gaza isn't just a humanitarian crisis. It's now become a political inkblot test. Rochester test, I forgot how to pronounce that. But Democrats, they failed it spectacularly. When bombs started falling, people didn't just look at Netanyahu. They looked at people like AOC, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem, Jeffries. And what did they see? Like, we believe in peace, but sending weapons anyway. We condemn genocide, but we won't call it that. We support a ceasefire, eventually, maybe, kind of. But you can't have it both ways. And Democrats, they're always such spineless. Ugh. You can't say Black Lives Matters and then fund white phosphorus. And voters notice this stuff. And the silence, the gaslighting, the performative concern while Palestinians were starved, that was the moment that I think the base really checked out. Now, this leads us into this credibility vacuum, right? Here's the dirty truth nobody in DC wants to say out loud. There is no moral leader in the Democratic Party. I mean, you've got Pete Buttigieg, who sounds like ChatGPT with a Harvard degree. Gavin Newsom, he really looks like a Netflix villain and dodges every real issue. Kamala, who campaigned on vibes and then disappeared into the West Wing void. Meanwhile, the only one actually calling out the genocide, Zoran Mandani, Rashid Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and they're treated like political lepers. And the party doesn't know what it stands for anymore because it's trying to stand for everything without offending anyone. And that's how you lose everybody. Now, voting against and not for, let's go back to that concept, that paradox that we mentioned it earlier, right? Democrats are losing favorability, but voter enthusiasm is up. So why is that happening? Because hate is a stronger motivator than hope, evidently. People aren't voting for Democrats. They're voting against Trump, against fascism, against chaos. It's a hostage situation. Vote for us or the orange guy wins. But that's not a platform. That's emotional blackmail. And here's the kicker to it all, right? Eventually that stops working because people don't stay in relationships where they feel lied to all the time. They burn that all down. So where are the opportunists in all this stuff? And this is the part I don't get, and you guys are going to have to help me through. You have an entire generation begging for someone with courage, not charisma, not donor-approved sound bites, but just some basic moral clarity. And yet nothing. Zoran can't run for president. He was born in Uganda. Tlaib and Omar are too controversial. And AOC is still defending weapons being sent to Israel. So the field is wide open and nobody's stepping up. Now, where is the 2025 version of Obama in 2002? Where is the person willing to risk something? Because the machine is fragile. One credible outsider with guts, just one, could bulldoze the entire party. But it's not going to be Newsom. It's not going to be Mayor Pete. And it's definitely not going to be Chuck Schumer, who hasn't taken a single press question on Gaza, but found time for an anti-Semitism now and then panel with Brett Stevens. I mean, he's ridiculous. So where does that leave us or the country? A party with no message, a base with no faith, and a generation screaming into the void. Like America deserves better. But here's the twist to it all. None of this will matter unless someone outside this decaying system finally steps in and breaks the rules. All right, guys, thanks for watching The Baseline. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Am I way off on this? Is the Democratic Party really crumbling from the inside? I read all the comments. I value your take. And hey, if you got a better theory or a better understanding of what's going on, I really want to hear it. So let's talk about it. And thank you again so much for watching The Baseline. Cheers, everybody.